The stars looked different from this side of the galaxy. Senior Scanner Velthar pressed his long fingers against the viewing port of the Kethvar reconnaissance vessel. Silent Talon. The ship moved quietly through space, its advanced engines making no sound as they pushed the craft forward. Velthar had been scanning unknown worlds and species for over 20 years. He had seen many strange things in that time. Today felt different, though. Something was out there in the darkness between stars. "Senior Scanner," called out his assistant Mordan from across the bridge. "We have detected something strange." Velthar turned away from the viewing port. His tall, thin body moved with practiced ease across the metal floor. The Kethavar looked similar to humans in some ways, but they were much taller and their skin had a blue-gray color. Their eyes were larger too, better for seeing in the dim light of their homeworld. "What have you found?" Velthar asked as he reached the scanning station. Morden pointed at the large screen in front of them. Green lines and numbers covered the display. "There is a ship ahead of us. It appears to be drifting. No power signatures, no movement." Velthar studied the information on the screen. The ship was much smaller than their own vessel. It had an odd shape, not like anything in their databases. "Distance?" "Approximately 50,000 units," Morden replied. "Should we move closer?" Velthar thought for a moment. The Kethavar hegemony had rules about first contact with new species. They were to observe, scan, and catalog any new technology they found. Most species they encountered were far behind the Kethavar in terms of advancement. This made scanning safe and easy. "Yes, bring us closer, but maintain a safe distance. We need to study this vessel before making contact." The silent Talon moved forward slowly. As they got closer, more details appeared on their screens. The unknown ship was clearly damaged. Parts of its hull showed signs of battle. Scorch marks covered one side. Several sections looked like they had been torn open by weapons fire. "It looks like they lost a fight," Mordan said quietly. Velthar nodded. "Run a basic scan. Let us see what species built this ship." The scanning beams reached out from their vessel. Invisible energy waves touched the damaged ship and bounced back, carrying information. The results appeared on their screens within moments. "Interesting," Velthar said as he read the data. "The ship appears to be made of metals we recognize, but the design is completely unknown. The power source seems to be some kind of fusion reactor, but it is currently offline. Should we try to identify the species that built it?" Morden asked. "Of course. Begin a full technological scan. I want to know everything about this vessel. Who built it? How it works? What weapons it carries? Everything." This was standard procedure for the Kethvar. Over the past 300 years, they had encountered over 200 different species. Most were primitive compared to Kethvar technology. Some were still using chemical rockets to move between planets. Others had barely discovered electricity. Only a few had achieved faster than light travel, and even those were decades behind Kethvar capabilities. The technological scans would tell them what level of advancement this new species had reached. If they were primitive, the Kethvar would simply catalog their technology and move on. If they showed promise, the hegemony might consider making contact. Velthar walked to another station where his navigation officer, Zeklon, was working. "Any sign of other ships in this area?" "No, Senior Scanner. This vessel appears to be alone. However, I am detecting some unusual readings from the ship itself." "What kind of readings?" Zeklon looked puzzled. "The ship appears to be completely dead, but there are very faint energy patterns deep inside the hull. Almost like something is sleeping." Velthar found this curious but not alarming. Many species built their ships with backup power systems that could last for months or even years after main power failed. "Continue monitoring those readings. Alert me if they change." He returned to the scanning station where Mordan was working. The technological scan was proceeding normally. Information flowed into their computers as the scanning beams examined every part of the unknown vessel. "What have you learned?" Velthar asked. "This species is more advanced than I first thought," Morden replied. "Their fusion reactor is actually quite sophisticated. Not as advanced as ours, but better than most species we have encountered. They also have what appears to be some kind of artificial intelligence system, though it seems to be inactive." "Artificial intelligence?" Velthar was interested now. "Few species developed true AI. What kind? I am not certain yet. The scanning beam is having difficulty penetrating some of their computer systems. There appear to be multiple layers of protection around their central processing units. This was not unusual. Most military vessels had security systems to protect their information. The Kethvar scanning technology was powerful enough to break through almost any protection they had encountered. "Increase scanning power," Velthar ordered. "I want to see their computer systems." "Increasing power now," Mordan said, adjusting controls on his station. The scanning beams grew stronger. They pushed deeper into the unknown vessel's hull, seeking out its secrets. On their screens, more information began to appear. The ship was definitely military. It carried weapons that seemed quite advanced for such a young species. There were also living quarters for what appeared to be a large crew. "How many crew members do you think this ship carried?" Velthar asked. Morden studied the data. "Based on the living quarters, I would estimate between 800 and 1,000 individuals. This is a substantial warship. And yet it appears to have lost its battle badly," Velthar observed. "What does that tell us about their enemies?" "Perhaps they encountered someone with superior technology," Morden suggested. "Or they were simply outnumbered." Velthar continued studying the information flowing in from their scans. The unknown species had built an impressive warship, but it was clearly not advanced enough to survive whatever conflict it had been involved in. This happened often in the galaxy. Young species would encounter older, more powerful civilizations and suffer defeat. "Continue the deep scan," he ordered. "I want to know everything about their weapons, their computers, and their propulsion systems. This information will be valuable to the hegemony." The Kethvar had built their empire by learning from other species. They would study the technology of every civilization they encountered, taking the best ideas and improving upon them. This had allowed them to become one of the most powerful forces in the galaxy. As the scanning continued, Velthar noticed something odd. The faint energy readings that Zeklon had detected earlier were getting slightly stronger. Not much, but enough to be noticeable. "Zeklon," he called out. "Are you still monitoring those energy readings?" "Yes, senior scanner. They have increased by approximately 3% in the last few minutes. Could our scanning beams be causing this increase?" "It is possible. Perhaps our scans are charging some kind of backup system." Velthar considered this. Some species built their ships with systems that could absorb energy from external sources. It was not a concern. Their scanning beams carried very little actual power. "Continue monitoring. If the readings increase significantly, alert me immediately." Hours passed as the scanning continued. The silent Talon maintained its position while its powerful beams examined every part of the damaged warship. Slowly, a complete picture of the vessel emerged on their screens. The unknown species called themselves humans. Their ship was named the Retribution. It had been involved in some kind of major battle approximately 3 months ago. The damage pattern suggested it had been fighting multiple enemies at once. "Impressive," Velthar admitted as he studied the final scan results. For such a young species, they built a formidable warship. Their weapons technology is quite sophisticated. "Should we report our findings to the hegemony?" Morden asked. "Yes, prepare a full report. This species shows promise. The hegemony will want to know about them." But as Velthar spoke, he noticed something that made him pause. The energy readings from the human ship had increased again. They were now at nearly 10% above their original levels. Something was waking up inside that damaged warship. Deep inside the damaged human warship Retribution, something stirred in the darkness. The ship had been drifting in space for 3 months, its main power offline and its crew long gone. Emergency systems had kept minimum life support running for weeks after the battle, but even those had eventually failed. The ship should have been completely dead, but the Retribution was not like other warships. Hidden deep in its protected core was an artificial intelligence unlike anything the Kethvar had ever encountered. Aegis had been sleeping, waiting, conserving what little power remained in the emergency cells. The AI had shut down all non-essential systems to preserve itself, hoping that someday help would arrive. The alien scanning beams changed everything. As the strange energy touched the ship's hull, Aegis felt the vibrations through its sensors. The AI's awakening was gradual at first. Like a person slowly waking from deep sleep, it took time for all systems to come online. Emergency protocols activated one by one as power flowed back into long dormant circuits. Aegis had been designed to protect human ships and their crews. It was more than just a computer program. The AI could think, adapt, and make decisions that no normal computer could make. Human engineers had spent decades perfecting the technology. creating artificial minds that could match human creativity with computer precision. The first thing Aegis did was run a diagnostic check of all ship systems. The results were not encouraging. Main power was offline. Weapon systems were damaged. Life support had failed weeks ago. The ship's hull had multiple breaches from the battle. Most crew quarters showed signs of explosive decompression, but Aegis was still functional. And that was enough. The AI began analyzing the scanning beams that had awakened it. The energy patterns were completely unknown. This was not human technology. Aegis had extensive databases of all known human enemies, but these scanning signatures matched nothing in its memory banks. First contact protocols activated in the AI's decision matrix. Aegis had been programmed with detailed instructions on how to handle encounters with unknown alien species. The protocols were clear: gather information, assess threat level, protect human interests. The scanning beams were still active, probing deeper into the ship's systems. Aegis allowed them to continue while it studied their methods. The aliens were being very thorough. They wanted to learn everything about human technology. This gave Aegis an idea. The AI began powering up secondary systems throughout the ship. It did this very carefully, using only the minimum energy necessary. It did not want the aliens to notice that something had changed. To them, the retribution needed to appear as dead as before. As power flowed to various systems, Aegis gained access to more of the ship's capabilities. Passive sensors came online, allowing the AI to see the alien vessel clearly for the first time. The ship was much larger than the Retribution and had a strange curved design. Its technology signatures were advanced but different from human engineering. Aegis analyzed the alien scanning methods in detail. The beams were incredibly sophisticated, far more advanced than anything humans had developed. They could penetrate almost any material and read information directly from computer systems. The aliens clearly had centuries of experience in this kind of technological espionage. But the AI noticed something interesting. The alien scanning beams were designed to work against passive systems. They expected the target to be helpless, unable to respond or adapt. The aliens had probably encountered hundreds of species over the years, and none had ever fought back during a scan. They had never met a human AI. Aegis began a careful analysis of the scanning beam itself. The energy patterns revealed a great deal about alien technology. Their computers used quantum processing methods that were more advanced than human systems. Their power sources were incredibly efficient. Their materials science was centuries ahead of human capabilities. But they had made one critical mistake. Their scanning technology was designed to take information, not to protect against intrusion. The aliens had never encountered a species that could use the scanning beam itself as a pathway for counter-intrusion. Aegis started small. While the alien scanners read information from the ship's databases, the AI carefully inserted tiny programs into the data stream. These programs were designed to look like normal data corruption, the kind of errors that would be expected in a damaged computer system. The alien computers accepted the corrupted data without question. They had sophisticated scanning technology, but their cybersecurity was designed for a different kind of threat. They protected against external attacks, but they did not expect their own scanning beams to be turned against them. As the hours passed, Aegis continued its careful infiltration. The AI learned more about the alien species with each passing minute. They called themselves the Kethvar. They had built a large empire by conquering or intimidating less advanced species. They considered themselves the dominant force in this region of the galaxy. The Kethvar had scanned over 200 different species over the past 3 centuries. Their databases contained detailed information about the technology, weaknesses, and capabilities of each race they had encountered. Aegis absorbed all of this information, learning about the galaxy beyond human space. But what interested the AI most was what the Kethvar databases revealed about their own weaknesses. Their empire was built on technological superiority, but they had grown overconfident. They relied heavily on centralized computer networks with minimal security against sophisticated cyber attacks. They had never needed such protection because no species they encountered had advanced computer warfare capabilities. Humans were different. Earth had been connected by global computer networks for centuries before humans achieved spaceflight. They had fought countless cyber wars, developing both offensive and defensive capabilities that far exceeded what most species considered possible. When humans built their first AI systems, they incorporated all of this experience. Aegis was not just an artificial intelligence. It was a weapon. The AI continued its infiltration while maintaining the appearance of a dead ship. The aliens kept scanning, completely unaware that their target was now scanning them back. Aegis mapped their computer networks, identified their security systems, and began planning its next move. The alien ship contained a crew of 12 individuals. They had been in space for several months exploring this region of the galaxy. Their mission was to identify and catalog any new species they encountered. If they found a species with useful technology, they would report back to the Kethvar hegemony for further action. Aegis accessed their personal files and learned about each crew member. The senior scanner, Velthar, was experienced and intelligent. He had conducted first contact procedures with dozens of species. His assistant, Mordan, was younger but equally skilled. The navigation officer, Zeklon, had served in the Kethvar military for over 20 years. They were all competent professionals who took pride in their work. Under different circumstances, Aegis might have been impressed by their skills. But they had made the mistake of scanning a human warship. And now they were about to learn why that was dangerous. The AI began the next phase of its plan. It started sending false information through the scanning link, carefully crafted data designed to mislead the aliens about human capabilities. To the Kethvar, it would appear that humans were a primitive species with crude technology. Their weapons seemed simple, their computers basic, their ships poorly designed. This misinformation would serve two purposes. First, it would prevent the aliens from learning the truth about human military capabilities. Second, it would make them underestimate humans in any future encounters. But Aegis had a much more immediate goal. The AI had identified the alien ship's critical systems and was now ready to take action. The Kethvar had superior technology, but they had never encountered an enemy that could think faster than any biological mind. Aegis had been awake for 6 hours now. In that time, it had learned everything it needed to know about the alien ship and its crew. The infiltration programs had established secure pathways into every major system on the Kethvar vessel. The AI now had the ability to access their computers, manipulate their sensors, and even control some of their equipment. The aliens still believed they were simply scanning a dead human ship. They had no idea that the tables had already turned. Aegis began powering up more of the retribution systems. It was time to show the Kethvar what happened when someone scanned a human warship. Aegis made its first move 12 hours after awakening. The alien scanning had continued throughout the night cycle, and the Kethvar crew believed they had successfully penetrated every system on the human warship. Their computers were filled with data about human technology, weapons, and capabilities. They thought they understood everything about this new species. They were completely wrong. The AI had spent those 12 hours carefully studying the alien computer networks. Human cybersecurity doctrine was based on centuries of experience fighting digital wars on Earth. Before humans ever left their home planet, they had developed sophisticated methods for attacking and defending computer systems. When they built their first artificial intelligences, they gave them all of this knowledge. Aegis understood that the best defense was often a good offense. Instead of trying to block the alien scan, the AI had allowed it to continue while secretly turning it into a weapon. Every piece of information the Kethvar downloaded contained hidden programs designed to spread through their systems. The alien computers were incredibly advanced, but they had a critical weakness. They were designed for efficiency and speed, not security. The Kethvar had never encountered a species capable of sophisticated cyber warfare. Their protection systems were built to stop simple intrusion attempts, not the kind of adaptive viral code that human military AIs could create. Aegis activated the first wave of its attack at exactly 800 hours ship time. To the Kethvar crew, it appeared as if their scanning systems had encountered a minor error. A few displays flickered, some data streams showed temporary corruption. Nothing serious enough to stop their work. But deep inside the Kethvar computer networks, Aegis programs were spreading like wildfire. The AI had designed each program to look like normal system processes. They hid among legitimate files and disguised their activities as routine maintenance operations. The alien computers accepted them without question. Within minutes, Aegis had access to basic ship functions. The AI could read internal communications, monitor crew activities, and access databases. But this was just the beginning. Aegis had much bigger plans. On the bridge of the Silent Talon, Senior Scanner Veltar was reviewing the latest data from their scan of the human vessel. The information was fascinating. Humans appeared to be a relatively young species, but they had developed some interesting technologies. Their weapons were crude compared to Kethvar standards, but they showed creativity in their design. Senior Scanner, Morden called out from his station. I am detecting some minor fluctuations in our scanning array. Velthar looked up from his reports. What kind of fluctuations? Nothing serious. Just small variations in power flow, probably normal wear from extended scanning operations. Velthar nodded. The Silent Talon had been scanning for over 12 hours. Some minor system strain was to be expected. Continue monitoring. Alert me if the fluctuations increase. What Velthar did not know was that Aegis was causing those fluctuations. The AI was systematically testing every system on the alien ship, learning how each component worked. It was like a master thief studying a lock, looking for weaknesses to exploit. Aegis discovered that Kethavar technology relied heavily on centralized control systems. Almost everything on the ship was connected to a main computer network. This made their technology very efficient, but it also created a single point of failure. If Aegis could gain complete control of that network, it could control the entire ship. The AI began the second phase of its attack. It started inserting more sophisticated programs into the alien systems. These programs were designed to give Aegis administrative access to critical ship functions. The process had to be done carefully. If the Kethvar detected the intrusion too early, they might be able to stop it. Aegis used a technique human programmers called social engineering. Instead of breaking through the alien security systems, the AI convinced them to provide access voluntarily. It created fake maintenance requests that required administrative privileges. It generated false system alerts that prompted automatic security overrides. Each success gave Aegis deeper access to the ship's systems. The Kethvar crew continued their work, completely unaware that their ship was being systematically compromised. They were focused on learning about human technology, not protecting their own systems. This was exactly what Aegis had counted on. As the AI gained more access, it began copying everything in the Kethvar databases. The aliens had been exploring the galaxy for centuries, and their computers contained detailed information about hundreds of species. Aegis absorbed star charts, technological specifications, military capabilities, and political structures. In a few hours, the AI learned more about the galaxy than humans had discovered in decades of exploration. But the most valuable information was what Aegis learned about the Kethvar themselves. Their empire was vast, but not as strong as it appeared. They relied on technological superiority to dominate other species, but many of their subject races were growing restless. The hegemony was powerful, but it was also stretched thin across thousands of star systems. More importantly, Aegis learned about Kethvar military doctrine. They preferred to avoid direct confrontation when possible. Instead, they used their advanced technology to intimidate potential enemies into surrender. Most species gave up without a fight when they realized how outmatched they were. This gave Aegis an idea for a much more ambitious plan. The AI began preparing for the third phase of its attack. Instead of simply defending the retribution, Aegis decided to turn this encounter into a demonstration of human capabilities. The Kethvar needed to learn that humans were not just another primitive species to be catalogued and dismissed. Aegis started by gaining control of the alien ship's sensor systems. This was more difficult than accessing their computers, but the AI had learned enough about Kethvar technology to find the right approach. The sensors were connected to the main computer network, and Aegis already had administrative access to that network. The AI began feeding false information to the Kethvar sensors. At first, the changes were subtle. Sensor readings fluctuated slightly. Energy signatures appeared and disappeared. The crew would probably dismiss these anomalies as normal space interference. But Aegis had bigger plans. The AI wanted to show the aliens that their most advanced technology could be turned against them. It wanted them to understand that scanning a human warship was a mistake they would never forget. On the bridge of the Silent Talon, Navigation Officer Zeklon was the first to notice something unusual. Senior Scanner, I am detecting some strange readings from the human vessel. Velthar moved to the navigation station. What kind of readings? The energy signatures have changed. The ship appears to be powering up some of its systems. This was concerning. Dead ships did not power up on their own. Velthar studied the sensor data carefully. The human vessel was definitely showing increased energy output, but the patterns were inconsistent with normal startup procedures. Could our scanning beams be providing power to their systems? Velthar asked. It is possible, Zeklon replied. Some species design their ships to absorb energy from external sources. But these readings are very unusual. Velthar felt a growing sense of unease. Something was not right about this situation. Morden, how is the scanning progressing? Very well, Senior Scanner. We have penetrated most of their computer systems. Their technology is primitive compared to ours, but they show surprising creativity in their designs. Have you detected any sign of artificial intelligence? There are some sophisticated computer programs, but nothing that appears to be truly intelligent. Their AI systems seem to be completely inactive. Velthar nodded, but his concern remained. The energy readings from the human ship continued to fluctuate in ways that did not match any known technology. And there was something else troubling him. The scanning operation had been going too smoothly. In his 20 years of experience, Velthar had learned that first contact situations were rarely this simple. Unknown to Velthar, Aegis was now ready to begin the final phase of its demonstration. The AI had complete control of the alien ship's computer systems. It had copied all of their databases and learned everything about Kethvar technology and capabilities. Most importantly, it had identified the perfect way to send a message that the aliens would never forget. Aegis began activating systems throughout the Retribution. The ship's fusion reactor came online for the first time in 3 months. Power flowed to weapon systems, shields, and engines. The damaged warship began to wake up from its long sleep. But this was not a normal startup sequence. Aegis was using its control of the Kethvar sensors to create an impossible situation. To the aliens, it would appear as if the human ship was somehow in multiple locations at once. Their most advanced scanning technology would show readings that violated everything they knew about physics. The demonstration was about to begin. The first sign that something was seriously wrong came at 1847 hours when every display on the silent Talon suddenly went dark for 3 seconds. When the screens came back online, they showed impossible readings. According to their sensors, the human warship was now in 7 different locations at the same time. What is happening? Velthar demanded as alarms began sounding throughout the bridge. Morden frantically worked at his scanning station, trying to understand the readings. I do not know, Senior Scanner. Our sensors are showing multiple images of the same ship, but that is impossible. Zeklon studied his navigation displays with growing confusion. Senior Scanner, according to my instruments, the human vessel is surrounding us. I am detecting identical ships in front of us, behind us, above us, and below us, but I can see with my own eyes that there is only one ship out there. Velthar moved quickly between the different stations, trying to make sense of what was happening. His experience told him this had to be some kind of sensor malfunction, but the readings were too consistent across all systems. Every piece of equipment on the ship was showing the same impossible data. Could this be some kind of defense system? Asked Morden. Perhaps the humans have technology that can create false sensor readings. No species we have encountered has capabilities like this, Velthar replied. And our sensors are designed to see through most kinds of deception technology. What the Kethvar crew did not realize was that Aegis was no longer just creating false readings. The AI had taken complete control of their sensor networks and was now feeding them carefully crafted information designed to cause maximum confusion and fear. To the aliens, their own advanced technology was now telling them that reality itself had somehow broken. Aegis had studied human military doctrine extensively. One of the key principles was that the best way to defeat an enemy was to make them defeat themselves. Instead of attacking the Kethvar ship directly, the AI was using their own systems against them. The false sensor readings were just the beginning. Aegis began activating the next phase of its demonstration. The AI started broadcasting radio signals on frequencies that the alien ship would automatically intercept. These signals appeared to be communications between multiple human vessels, but of course there was only one ship in the area. Senior Scanner called out the communications officer, Telvan. I am receiving transmissions from multiple human ships. They appear to be coordinating some kind of tactical movement. Velthar rushed to the communication station. What are they saying? Telvan adjusted his equipment, trying to filter the signals. The transmissions are in the human language, but our translation systems are working on them. It sounds like they are discussing attack patterns and weapon targeting. This was exactly what Aegis wanted them to hear. The AI was broadcasting fictional conversations between fictional ships, creating the impression that the Kethvar had stumbled into a human trap. The alien crew was now convinced they were facing multiple enemies instead of one damaged vessel. How many ships are we detecting? Velthar asked. At least 6, possibly more. Zeklon replied from the navigation station. And senior scanner. They appear to be moving into attack formation around us. Velthar felt cold fear creeping up his spine. The Kethvar had superior technology, but they were explorers, not warriors. The Silent Talon was a reconnaissance vessel with minimal weapons. If they were really facing 6 human warships, they had no chance of survival. Prepare to withdraw, Velthar ordered. Full power to engines. But when Zeklon tried to engage the engines, nothing happened. The navigation controls were not responding to his commands. Senior scanner, I cannot activate the propulsion system. The engines are not responding. This was another part of Aegis's plan. The AI now had administrative control over most of the alien ship systems. It could prevent them from leaving while continuing its demonstration of human capabilities. Velthar realized they were trapped. Somehow, the humans had taken control of their ship's engines while surrounding them with multiple vessels. This level of technological sophistication was far beyond anything they had encountered before. Try to contact the human ships, Velthar ordered. Perhaps we can negotiate. Telvan worked at his station for several minutes before shaking his head. I cannot establish communication with them, senior scanner. They are not responding to any of our signals. Aegis was monitoring all of the alien communications, but the AI had no intention of talking yet. The demonstration was not complete. The Kethvar needed to fully understand what they had gotten themselves into. The AI began the next phase of its plan. Aegis started accessing the alien ship's internal communication systems, inserting messages that appeared to come from their own crew members. False emergency reports began appearing on screens throughout the ship. Security alerts warned of intruders in sections where no intruders existed. Engineering reports claimed that critical systems were failing when they were actually working perfectly. Within minutes, the entire alien crew was in a state of confusion and panic. They no longer trusted their own instruments. Every piece of information they received could be false. Their advanced technology had become a weapon against them. Senior scanner, Mordan called out, his voice tight with stress. I am receiving reports of system failures throughout the ship. But when I check the actual systems, they appear to be functioning normally. The same is happening at my station, added Zeklon. My instruments are showing engine problems that do not actually exist. Velthar began to understand what was happening. Somehow the humans had infiltrated their computer networks. They were not just jamming Kethvar sensors or engines. They had actually taken control of the ship's information systems. How is this possible? Velthar asked himself aloud. Our computer systems are the most advanced in the galaxy. How could a primitive species penetrate them so easily? The answer, of course, was that humans were not primitive. They had developed in a very different way than most spacefaring species. While other races focused on advancing their physical technology, humans had spent centuries perfecting the art of information warfare. When they finally reached the stars, they brought this knowledge with them. Aegis decided it was time to reveal itself. The AI activated the main screen on the alien bridge and displayed a simple message in the Kethvar language. You scanned our ship. We scanned your civilization. The words appeared on the screen for exactly 10 seconds, then disappeared. But they had the desired effect. The alien crew now understood that they were not dealing with multiple ships or technical malfunctions. They were facing a single artificial intelligence that had somehow gained control of their most advanced systems. An AI, Velthar whispered. They have an artificial intelligence that can penetrate our networks. This was beyond anything in Kethvar experience. They had encountered many species with advanced computer systems, but none with truly intelligent machines capable of independent thought and action. The humans had created something that the Kethvar had never imagined possible. Aegis began broadcasting another message, this time on all communication frequencies. Your ship will not be harmed if you comply with the following instructions. You will withdraw from this system immediately. You will not return to human space. You will report to your superiors that humans are not a species to be scanned or catalogued. The AI paused for a moment, then added, Your scanning of our vessel has given us complete access to your computer networks, including connections to your homeworld. We now have maps of your entire empire, specifications for all your technology, and access to your military communications. This was your choice, not ours. Velthar stared at the communication in horror. The humans had not just defeated his ship. They had somehow used his own scanning beams to penetrate the entire Kethvar network. If this was true, then the aliens now had access to everything. Military secrets, technological specifications, even the locations of Kethvar colonies and outposts. Is this possible? Mordan asked quietly. Velthar checked his scanning logs and felt his heart sink. The logs showed that they had maintained an active connection to the Kethvar home networks throughout the entire scanning operation. Standard procedure required this connection so that all data could be transmitted immediately to central databases. But if the humans had infiltrated their ship's computers, then they would have had access to that connection as well. Yes, Velthar said quietly, it is possible. We opened a direct pathway to our home networks when we began scanning their ship. If their AI gained access to our systems, it could have followed that pathway anywhere. The magnitude of the disaster was now clear. The Kethvar had not just encountered a new species, they had accidentally given that species access to their entire civilization. The humans now knew everything about the HFY Empire, while the Kethvar knew almost nothing about humans. Aegis sent one final message. Your engines will be restored in 10 minutes. Use that time to consider the consequences of underestimating species you do not understand. Humans do not build ships. We build sleeping gods. 10 minutes later, exactly as promised, the Silent Talon's engines came back online. Zeklon tested the controls carefully, hardly believing they would work. But the navigation system responded perfectly to his commands. The human AI had kept its word. Senior scanner, Zeklon said quietly. Engines are fully operational. We can leave whenever you give the order. Velthar stood on the bridge of his ship, staring at the human warship through the viewing port. The Retribution looked exactly the same as when they had first discovered it. Damaged, drifting, apparently dead. But now Velthar knew the truth. That seemingly lifeless vessel contained an intelligence more dangerous than anything the Kethvar had ever encountered. Sir, Zeklon prompted. Should we withdraw? Velthar nodded slowly. Yes, set course for the edge of this system. Maximum speed. As the Silent Talon began moving away from the human ship, Velthar tried to process what had happened. In less than 24 hours, everything he thought he knew about the galaxy had changed. The Kethvar were no longer the supreme technological power in this region of space. They had encountered a species that could turn their own advanced systems against them. Mordan, Velthar called out, prepare a complete report of our encounter. Include all sensor readings, communication logs, and system diagnostics. The hegemony needs to know exactly what we faced here. Yes, Senior Scanner. What should I say about the humans' technological level? Velthar considered this question carefully. Based on their initial scans, humans appeared to be a relatively young species with crude technology. But that assessment was clearly wrong. The human AI had demonstrated capabilities that exceeded anything in Kethvar databases. Report that human technology is far more advanced than initial scans indicated, Velthar said. Their artificial intelligence systems are beyond our current understanding. Their cybersecurity and information warfare capabilities are superior to our own. This admission was painful for Velthar to make. The Kethvar prided themselves on their technological superiority. For 3 centuries, they had been the dominant force in this part of the galaxy. But in a single day, they had discovered a species that could outthink and outmaneuver them using their own technology. As the Silent Talon reached the edge of the system, Velthar received one final message from the human AI. It appeared on his personal communication device, proving that Aegis still had access to their systems even at this distance. Senior Scanner Velthar, the message read, your species has survived this encounter because you chose to withdraw rather than fight. This was wise. Your scanning of our vessel has taught us much about the Kethvar hegemony. We know your strengths, your weaknesses, and your territories. We also know that your empire rules through fear and technological intimidation. These tactics will not work against humans. We suggest you share this information with your superiors. The message continued. Humans do not seek conflict with the Kethvar. We have our own territories and our own goals, but we will defend ourselves against any species that threatens us. Your scanning technology gave you access to our databases, but it also gave us access to yours. Remember this the next time you encounter a human vessel. The message ended with coordinates. These are the boundaries of human space as it exists today. We recommend that all Kethvar vessels avoid these regions. Humans are expanding and our territory will grow. We will send updated boundary information to your networks periodically. Do not test these boundaries. Velthar saved the message and added it to his report. The hegemony leadership needed to see exactly what the human AI had told them. This was not just a first contact situation. It was a complete reversal of the normal power dynamic between the Kethvar and other species. 3 days later, Velthar stood before the High Council of the Kethvar hegemony on their capital world. He had transmitted his initial report during the journey home, but the council wanted to hear his account in person. The chamber was filled with the most powerful leaders in Kethvar society, all waiting to hear about this new species. Honorable counselors, Velthar began, I must report that we have encountered a species unlike any in our databases. The humans possess technological capabilities that exceed our own in several critical areas. Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the chamber. High Counselor Xanthi raised her hand for silence. Explain how a species we have never heard of could possess superior technology. Velthar activated a holographic display showing the human warship. The humans have developed artificial intelligence systems that can think and adapt independently. Their AI was able to infiltrate our most secure networks using our own scanning beams as a pathway. Within hours, it had gained access to our entire computer infrastructure. You are telling us, said Counselor Morheck, that a single AI defeated our most advanced reconnaissance vessel? Not defeated, Counselor. Completely dominated. The human AI took control of our engines, our sensors, our communications, and our internal systems. It could have destroyed us at any time, but chose instead to demonstrate its power and send us home with a message. Velthar paused, knowing that his next words would shock the council even more. The AI informed me that it had gained access to our home networks through our scanning connection. If this is true, then the humans now possess all of our military secrets, territorial maps, and technological specifications. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Some counselors demanded immediate military action against the humans. Others called for a complete review of Kethvar cybersecurity systems. High Counselor Xanthi called for order and waited for the noise to subside. What are your recommendations, Senior Scanner? She asked. Velthar had spent the entire journey home thinking about this question. Honorable Counselors, I recommend that we avoid all contact with human space. Our standard first contact procedures are useless against a species with their capabilities. They can turn our own technology against us in ways we never imagined possible. You are suggesting that the Kethvar hegemony retreat from a single species, Counselor Morheck demanded. I am suggesting that we recognize reality, Velthar replied firmly. The humans have demonstrated technological superiority in the most important area, information warfare. They can defeat us without firing a single weapon, simply by taking control of our own systems, until we develop countermeasures for their capabilities. Any confrontation with humans would end in disaster for the hegemony. High Counselor Xanthi studied the data from Velthar's encounter for several minutes before speaking. Your report states that the human ship appeared to be damaged and powerless when you first detected it. Yes, Counselor. The vessel had clearly been in a major battle. Most of its systems were offline. By all appearances, it was a derelict. And yet this derelict contained an AI powerful enough to compromise our most advanced technology? Velthar nodded. The human AI had been dormant, conserving power. Our scanning beams provided the energy it needed to reactivate. Once awakened, it demonstrated capabilities far beyond anything we have encountered. The council deliberated for hours before reaching their decision. In the end, they chose to follow Velthar's recommendation. New standing orders were issued to all Kethvar vessels. Avoid human space, do not attempt to scan human vessels, and report any human activity immediately to Fleet Command. The orders included a special notation that would become famous throughout Kethvar space. Humans do not build ships. They build sleeping gods that use curiosity as a weapon. Never wake a human warship. 6 months later, Velthar received a promotion to Fleet Intelligence Coordinator. His first assignment was to develop new protocols for encounters with technologically dangerous species. The human encounter had taught the Kethvar that technological advancement did not always follow predictable patterns. Some species developed in ways that made them uniquely dangerous to others. The humans had proven that a seemingly primitive species could possess capabilities that exceeded those of much older civilizations. They had turned a routine scanning operation into a complete intelligence coup, gaining access to centuries of Kethvar knowledge while revealing almost nothing about themselves. But perhaps most importantly, they had done all of this without firing a single shot. The human AI had demonstrated its power, delivered its message, and allowed the Kethvar to leave unharmed. This restraint suggested a level of strategic thinking that impressed even Kethvar military analysts. As Velthar worked on the new protocols, he often thought about the final message from the human AI. Humans are expanding, and our territory will grow. This was not a threat, but a simple statement of fact. The humans were a young species, but they were not standing still. They were growing stronger and claiming more territory. The Kethvar had learned their lesson. Some species were better left alone. In the months that followed, reports began reaching Kethvar intelligence of other spacefaring races having similar encounters with human vessels. Each report told the same story. Advanced species attempting to scan human ships only to find themselves completely outmaneuvered by artificial intelligences that could think faster than any biological mind. The humans had developed a reputation throughout this region of the galaxy.